Oblivion Remastered has been a massive wake-up call for the games industry, and despite it becoming a huge success for Bethesda in mostly all the right ways, there are those who are still not happy that this game is getting the praise that it deserves. And other places like Nexus Mods have finally bent the knee as well and given in to player demands, and the journalists, yeah, they're not happy at all about that either. But with a game like this that is a love letter to every millennial who skips school to fight bandits in Cyrodiil, how come the usual types aren't happy about this? Well, grab your sweet rolls and let's get into it. Firstly, Oblivion Remastered is slapping harder than a Daedric mace to the face when it comes to the game's performance. The game is on the top of the Steam bestsellers list, and Bethesda announced that the game has reached 4 million players so far. Yeah, not copies sold again, there's that worded language coming up, because Oblivion is still on Game Pass as well, so we don't have actual concrete sales numbers yet, but we do know is that Bethesda and Virtuous, they spent about 4 years polishing this 2006 classic. We're talking Unreal Engine 5 visuals, overhauled leveling so you don't accidentally make your character into a potato, and more voice acting to make the charming denizens of Cyrodiil feel more alive than ever before. It's not really just a remaster, it's basically Oblivion 2.0, and it's glorious. On launch day, it hit 182,000 concurrent players on Steam. That's more than Marvel Rivals and Baldur's Gate 3 had on their first days as well. It's also the top seller on Steam despite a $50 price tag and being on Game Pass too. And all over social media, you can find players out here just recreating their favorite viral moments all over again. This isn't just nostalgia bait. It's a cultural event at this point. I saw a Reddit post that said that 2006 they skipped school for Oblivion, in 2025 they're skipping work for Oblivion now too. And hell yeah, brother, that's what I'm talking about. But here's where things sour, cause not everyone's on board with this. Enter Mike Ybarra, that's the former Blizzard president who decided to throw shade at Oblivion and rain on Bethesda's parade. For those who don't know who he is, Mike Ybarra is the guy who oversaw Blizzard's Diablo 4 launch and then pieced out to run a sports gambling company. He's now the CEO of Prize Picks, as seen here on screen, and it's yet another sports gambling thing that just makes money off people who are really addicted to gambling. Nice, Mike Ybarra, just cashing in on people's addictions again, are we? You can't change that, can you? Well, Ybarra thinks that Oblivion's remaster is not all that, and in fact believes that it's outdated and shouldn't be celebrated. He said this via Twitter. I'm skeptical about 20-year-old remasters. What was once fantastic, now remasters will never hold up against modern masterpieces like Elden Ring. The bar has simply moved from safe open-world RPGs to what Elden Ring brought us all. I would love to be proven wrong, but I'm not. Well, as you might expect, this is the kind of take that gets you ratioed into Oblivion, and that's a pun intended, by the way. But let's break this all down. So Ybarra thinks that Oblivion Remastered is overhyped and doesn't hold a candle to Elden Ring. First off, credit where it's due, Elden Ring is a masterpiece, that's really no question. From Software did craft a brutal, beautiful open world with plenty of discovery, combat, and classes that can make you feel like a god or a scrub who dies like a chicken depending on who you are. But comparing it to Oblivion Remastered is like saying that pizza sucks because sushi exists. They're different beasts is what I'm saying. Oblivion is about immersive role-playing, quirky quests from weird people, and a world that feels alive because every NPC has a PhD in being unhinged and goofy, and there's charm in that. Elden Ring, however, is about punishing difficulty, scary bosses that can call down the wrath of various gods on your forehead, and finding weird player-left notes that are oftentimes more sus than they are helpful. One's a cozy blanket of nostalgia, the other's a spiked bat to your ego is what I'm getting at. And Ybarra is acting like gamers can't love both, but let's just say it how it is. Mike Ybarra, he's wrong. Steam reviews are 82% positive for Oblivion Remastered, and fans are eating this up like it's 2006 Horse Armor DLC all over again. Also, let's talk about Ybarra's track record. This is the guy who greenlighted Blizzard's microtransaction era and dipped out before the Warcraft 3 Reforged dumpster fire could fully roast him. Now he's out here saying that Oblivion can't compete. My dude, you ran a company that sold $15 mounts while Oblivion fans were out here modding dragons for free. Are you really in a position to somehow think you know what players really want these days? I mean, you left the games industry to run a gambling site. If that isn't the most I don't know what players want so I'm out attitude, I don't know what is. And comparing Oblivion to Elden Ring I guess could work, but you're comparing two games from completely different eras. Oblivion obviously existed before the Soulsborne or Souls-like genre even technically existed yet, but Oblivion what? was, for many, the blueprint for how to do an open world game, even though if you ask me, not many have been able to replicate what Bethesda did so well back then, even to this day. I mean, go look at any Ubisoft open world game and compare it to even Oblivion to prove my point, but the point still stands. But claiming that players don't want remasters of classics is just proving that Mike Ybarra, despite having left game development technically behind, still doesn't know what players want. And again, like I said, when this guy was in charge of Blizzard, he was making all sorts of bad decisions that are still causing that company to reel in pain even to this day, even though he's been gone for years. As you can see here, the recently released Clair Obscur has almost reached 100,000 players on Steam already. It's a single-player story-driven turn-based RPG game. In Mike's eyes, he would never give the okay to finance a game like Clair Obscur because he couldn't monetize it to hell and back like he could World of Warcraft or Diablo. So it's no wonder that Ybarra can't fathom why people would pay money for Oblivion, because it's a single-player RPG with loads of content and replay value, because he himself hasn't really been a part of a game like that in years, and it's obvious. But remember, the guy's an executive for a reason. Sure, he does play games, as he does prove on his Twitter profile, but the guy clearly still has the executive-minded way of looking at things and wants to just make as much money as humanly possible at every single turn. One user would reply to Ybarra and say this, as many in comments wrote, "Not every RPG has to be Souls-like games. Hopefully, we won't see that trend like it was at one point that every first-person shooter had to be a battle royale," and Ybarra would clap back with this. "I don't mean Souls-like, I mean the discovery, the classes, the combat system, etc. Just a new level of quality. I think Oblivion is just fine when it comes to quality if you ask me, and I think based on their reception, people love remasters of classics as long as they're treated well enough." But Ybarra's not the only one stirring the pot. We'll circle back to him in a bit, but Vice decided to wade into the culture war swamp as well with an article that's, hoo boy, it's something alright. Vice, the outlet that went from punk sign to corporate clickbait pretty much, dropped an article titled, "Is Oblivion Remastered 2 Woke? Right-wing gamers are trying to mod out this feature." Yeah, so Vice decided to stir the pot with the whole male and female body type fiasco that was going on with Oblivion Remastered. The way that Vice wrote their article, it sounds dated as hell too. Here's what they said. "Did you download the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered yesterday, sit down to play and throw your controller at your TV? You know, because Bethesda Shadow dropped a woke remake. I bet the thought didn't even cross your mind since you're a reasonable human being who doesn't hate minorities. Unfortunately, the biggest losers in gaming are up in arms over Oblivion Remastered due to a gender-affirming change in the game's character creator. Oh no, trans people playing video games." Yep, as you can see, Vice is still trying to push the idea that gamers are bigots when in reality, players are just tired of this sort of nonsense altogether, clearly. And according to Vice, this change sent right-wing gamers into a meltdown. They then unironically bring up Grums, as you can see here, who said that there was no reason to add body types and just make it like the original game, which yeah, it is reasonable, because if it doesn't matter, why change it in the first place, right? But what's hilarious is that Vice did this article and had to update it after releasing it because Nexus Mods in fact did revert their changes and are now allowing the male and female change mod to Oblivion Remastered to exist on their platform. This is quite simply unprecedented for Nexus Mods to do because they're notoriously banning plenty of users and mods that have simply turned these sorts of games back into what they were originally. So not only did Vice lose this battle, but Nexus Mods too has egg on their face as well. And Nexus Mods issued a post on their site stating why the mod was removed originally, and dude, it's pure cope, but here's what it says. Let me read it for you. "This mod has been and likely will continue to be a source of controversy within the community. After a thorough review, we've determined that the content of the mod itself does not violate our community guidelines. However, due to the nature of the topic, which often attracts intense and sometimes hostile discussion, the comments section will remain locked to prevent further escalation." Why was the original upload removed? There has been a lot of speculation and misinformation regarding the removal of the original upload. To clarify, the mod was not taken down because of its content. As stated in the ban notice, it was removed due to the uploader's behavior. In the comments, the uploader expressed an intent to incite drama and endorsed an external site explicitly designed to host inflammatory content. This kind of behavior directly violates our community standards. We recognize that mods like this can bring sensitive discussions around gender and identity to the forefront. While there are important conversations, our platform exists to support creative expression and modding, not to serve as a battleground for broader cultural or political debates. What we will not tolerate is toiling, harassment, discrimination, or any form of toxicity that these discussions may provoke. Our commitment remains the same to keep modding accessible and welcoming for everyone. Yeah, that's That's a lie, isn't it, Nexus Mods? Come on, dude. You've banned so many mods in the past that were equally just as tame as this Oblivion mod too, and you guys know it. I've covered all kinds of mods you guys banned on my channel already. Remember when you guys banned the mod that turned all the pride flags in Spider-Man to American flags, and that was problematic somehow? But let's be real, the reason why you caved in is because, as people said on social media, they were canceling their premium subscriptions to your website. That's why you did this. You were losing money because Nexus Mods, just like Mike Ybarra, that ex-Blizzard CEO, both clearly don't know what players want these days. You're being embarrassed by your own opinions, and instead of owning up to them, you try to swindle the conversation to say, no guys, it was banned because of this. BS, dude, we all know why. As you can see here as one of the many examples where users on Twitter said that they were canceling their support and subscriptions to Nexus Mods for doubling down on censorship, and look at that, you can even see Nexus Mods feverishly not only saying the mod is up, but giving direct links to the mod in question to changing the body types. Wow, dude. Holy crap, guys, how the winds have changed, huh? These types thought they could double down on DEI slot mentalities and never change their tune as if this was the future, yet look what's happened instead. But the fact you had Vice framing this like they were waving a pride flag in your face just further proves how the access media and those within the industry still don't know what players want from the experiences that they clearly crave. Just to prove my point that these websites and the people within them have no idea what they're talking about, Vice brings up the fact that the BDS Movement, from which I understand is a pro-Palestine group, denounces Microsoft. Like, what even is gaming news media anymore? I'm not kidding either here. Look at this. This is from the same article about Oblivion Remastered, and it reads, "It's worth noting that while right-wing gamers are salty over Bethesda's gender-affirming options, the game is not without controversy on the other side of the political spectrum. On April 7th, the BDS Movement directly called in a boycott of Microsoft, declaring it the most complicit tech company in Israel's illegal occupation, apartheid regime, and ongoing you-know-what against 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. Bethesda was directly mentioned as a publisher to boycott. As a result, many players on the left have requested their fellow customers to refrain from purchasing Oblivion Remastered." Good lord, dude, I can't believe what passes for gaming media these days, but I guess I really shouldn't be surprised at this point either, because as you can see here on screen, this movement calls for the boycott of Microsoft, and by comparison, anything they make or release like Oblivion for supporting Israel, apparently. You see what I mean? How slippery the slope can get, and how fast it can happen? First, it's about body types. Then suddenly now, if you're buying Oblivion, you're pro-Israel and you're a supporter of war. Like, I'm just tired of this stuff, man. This is why I keep saying that we need to keep politics just out of gaming completely, because the way that Vice frames this article, it just paints Oblivion as something that nobody should play, right or left. It doesn't really matter to them, apparently. And you can be pro body types over genders and pro trans and pro whatever you want. But oh no, if you buy a game they don't like still, well, that's it. You're just as bad as them alt-right Yahtzees now, I guess, too. You just can't please these people is the point. And the fact the majority of modern gaming journalism has become stuff like this is why we are in this mess. Imagine asking your friend, hey, did you play the Oblivion Remastered, and then suddenly they're trauma dumping the Palestine war on you? Like, good lord, dude, I just want to know which class and race you picked and how you're role-playing. My god. The Vice article even quotes transphobic slurs from RPG HQ forums to prove gamers are bigots, which is classy, Vice. I won't show those, but way to cherry pick the worst comments to paint a whole community as toxic. That'll definitely win people over to your side for sure. But this is why nobody really trusts games media anymore. They're not reporting, they're just rage baiting, really. And I wish I didn't have more examples, but sadly I do. Here's PC Gamer being butthurt that players won the battle against Nexus Mods. Here's the article on screen and the way they word the sub-headline, which says Nexus Mods threw in the towel. Geez, PC Gamer, you sound mad that a modding website actually gave players what they wanted. Shouldn't you be pro-player and be advocating for what they want? Well, you should, but you're a gaming website in 2025, so who are we kidding? You loathe your consumer base like the rest of them. But it's the last 3 paragraphs of this article that just proves that you can't appease these activist types, man. Listen to what it says. Let me read it for you. And Nexus made no bones about why those mods were removed. After taking down the pronoun removing Starfield mod, for instance, Nexus Mod said, "We stand for diversity and inclusion in our community, and the removal of diversity while appealing to many does not promote a positive modding community." Similar statements were made about the Spider-Man and Baldur's Gate 3 3 mod, so why does the body type selector mod get a pass? Maybe anti-trans sentiment ranks a little lower on the poll than other forms of queerphobia on Nexus mods. Or maybe the moderators are just getting tired of the whole moderating thing. Whatever the reason, the bottom line is that Nexus Mods seemingly recognizes that this body type selector mod exists as a dog whistle for transphobes, but doesn't seem to care as long as the mod author doesn't explicitly say so. That's not great, and based on the reaction to the cave-in on social media, I suspect Nexus Mods may be about to learn a lesson we all should have absorbed long ago. Appeasement doesn't work. Wow, PC Gamer, you sound really disappointed that Nexus Mods is, giving players what they wanted in the end. So let me get this straight. It's totally fine for Nexus Mods to have mods on their website that, for example, turned Geralt from The Witcher 3 into a literal black guy, even though he's clearly a white man, as you're seeing on screen here. But it's not okay for mods to exist on Nexus Mods, such as this one, like turning Angrboda from God of War Ragnarok white when she's black in the game. So from what I'm gathering here, from what I'm picking up, as the kids say these days, is that it's okay to be racist and race swap characters on modding sites as long as it's white characters getting race swapped and not the other way around. Am I understanding this right? See, this is why they lost the whole culture war thing, because they could never really defend their biases even if they tried. Because you're banning a mod that just changes 2 words while keeping mods that turn characters into anime waifus. Or other mods on your website that add literal slave mechanics to your game is fine on your site. That's just inconsistent as hell. It's just not about inclusivity. It's about picking fights to look virtuous, and gamers are clearly tired of it. That's why DEG Mods is blowing up. People want freedom to mod without a morality police breathing down their necks. But let's circle back to Mike Ybarra and his comments now, because I think what this guy has said has really stirred the pot, so to speak, for so many, and for good reason. I think if we look at what's happened in the past week of video games, we had 2 clear shiny examples that work. You had Clair Obscur, that's a new game from a new developer tackling turn-based combat, and it's a massive success for the studio. Good for them, truly happy for them, and I'm super happy that people are enjoying such a great game. And then on the other hand, you have Oblivion Remastered, which in my opinion, it caters to a completely different crowd of RPG fans, dare I say, and don't take this the wrong way, but Oblivion is more casual in my eyes than something like Clair Obscur, but that doesn't mean that it's bad or anything like that. It's just easier to play and understand, and that's great if you ask me, and the fact that both of these games are doing so well is tangible proof that no matter if the games coming out are completely new experiences or remasters of classics, that people will still show up. But there's a key connective tissue here that causes these sorts of experiences to blow up when others do not, and if you hadn't noticed, it's also what these articles and these journalists clearly lack, and that's 2 things. 1, human decency, and the second, just plain old-fashioned respect for others. And there's a reason why nobody really trusts gaming media, because they've made it abundantly clear that we're all evil bigots without any reason why. But Oblivion and Clair Obscur did what they did because they respect the player, but I do think that Bethesda should revert body types to gender still, if you ask me. While they may have thought by adding body types they would avoid backlash, it did anything but that in actuality. And that's the thing, right? Relationships are built on respect and trust, and I don't really trust these gaming websites, if you ask me. And when it comes to people like Mike Ybarra over here, who used to run Blizzard, the reason why I'm so against what he said is because I too don't really trust this guy either, because his actions within video games are very evidently not meant to make video games a better place. His actions led to many poorly conceived PR disasters that have plagued Activision Blizzard for years before he jumped ship to a literal gambling company. For those unaware, Mike Ybarra left Blizzard during, well, let's just say a volatile time for the company. Ybarra left when the California civil rights lawsuit was destroying Activision Blizzard. Too long, didn't read version, Blizzard was underpaying employees, abusing their rights, and had multiple sexual harassment cases plaguing their company during this time. It all ended with Activision Blizzard having to pay $54 million to the state and another $47 million to various employees that they wronged, and that's a lot of money to give to your employees, which makes me wonder just how many people were being mistreated and abused at Activision Blizzard during this time, especially while under the watchful eye of none other than Mike Ybarra here, who thinks that Oblivion is outdated and shouldn't be praised or celebrated. And then after this all happened, Microsoft, which then owned Activision Blizzard, let go around 2,000 employees from that side of the company. And this is when Mike actually felt that he needed to leave the company, even though he previously said in other interviews that they would have to drag him out of Blizzard to make him leave. So is it any wonder that this guy left Blizzard once they had to spend like $100 million in covering lawsuits and led to thousands of people being laid off in the process? And then he ran away to run a fantasy gambling company. This is the guy we should listen to when it comes to what games should be praised for or not? Are we being serious right now? Of course he's going to hate Oblivion Remastered, because it's a feature-complete remaster that isn't even full price. Are you kidding me? Mike Ybarra would make that sucker full price and slap a battle pass on it with daily challenges if he was in charge. Maybe some gambling too while he's at it. The point is that Oblivion has not only embarrassed the gaming journalists and its executives with being ousted as morons who clearly don't know what they're talking about in the first place, but it proves that ultimately these people, they don't really respect the players at all either. And any win you get against some weirdo ideology is a problem in their eyes, and any game you buy that is actually worth the money you spent on it shouldn't be celebrated, but it's now a problem. And instead, you're all wrong apparently, because you don't like buying live service slop games that treat you like a cash cow that they can just milk every day or two for some bucks so you can keep enjoying their content. Oblivion Remastered is a wake-up call for the industry, and to Bethesda too, that they shouldn't pander to identity politics at all anymore either. That if you want your players to be happy and have that trust you so desperately need to ensure that future releases get received well too, you probably need to ensure that you're not, looking at your player base like pigs in a farm that you can harvest, but as actual people instead. Look, at the end of the day, Oblivion Remastered is a triumph. It's not trying to be Elden Ring Mike Ybarra, and it doesn't need to. It's a love letter to a game that defined a generation, and 182,000 concurrent players day one proves that there's a market for it. And Vice's woke article, the Nexus Mods drama, that's just noise, culture war garbage that distracts from what matters, which is that the game slaps and fans are still eating it up. So what do you think about all of this? Is Ybarra out of touch? Is the body type drama overblown? Drop your thoughts in the comments. But as always, thank you for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you when the industry inevitably does something else stupid in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one.